So this past weekend, a brand new film in the Evil Dead franchise released into theaters. As a massive fan of this franchise, I've been very excited to rank all 6 of the movies. With that said, here's this video. Before I dive in, like I said, big fan of this franchise. Tell me down below what is your ranking. And while you're down there, if you would subscribe and like button, hit the bell so you never miss another franchise ranking. And I'm being serious. Yeah, tell me your ranking in the comments. I really want to know your ranking. This is a franchise that the rankings are really divisive. A lot of times in these rankings, a lot of people say they're bait because I differ so different from a lot of people's rankings. I tell you here, I tell you now, this is my ranking. This is my opinion. I'm not baiting anybody. This is my general opinion of these movies. Now, the way the summer has been working out for me, I haven't had a lot of time to rewatch a lot of movies for franchises due to starting a new job, the internship. So I've been insanely busy this summer, so I didn't get to rewatch any of these movies before the ranking, which is unfortunate because there were like 2 or 3 I planned on rewatching. But this is from when I watched them before Evil Dead Rise, continuing on adding Evil Dead Burn. With that said, long intro out of the way, number 6, we're going with Evil Dead. The Evil Dead. The original. Oh boy. Oh boy. I'm gonna get flamed in the comments. I like the filmmaking aspect of this movie, right? As somebody who loves movies. As somebody who loves knowing how movies are made. Who loves the magic of filmmaking. This movie was impressive. Sam Raimi and his friends made it off a really cheap budget. There are many shots that, like, how they shot them, really interesting. If you don't know anything about how this movie was made, do some research. Watch some videos on how this movie was made. It's really interesting. So as a film lover, from a filmmaking standpoint, I can respect this movie. All I gotta say is it's boring. Okay, it's very boring. I watched this movie, I was bored. Right, where you get Evil Dead 2, much higher up on this list, and that is the exact same movie. But corny, fun, goofy, the good stuff. And then you get this movie, and it's got a couple of good horror sequences in there, but overall the plot, the story, the characters, it's all boring. It takes so long for anything to happen, and by the time we get to the end of the movie, I am just so out of it and bored. And as a fan, like I said, as a fan of the filmmaking process, I think it is a very well done film, technical-wise. However, it's boring, and I can never turn this movie back on, because the 2 times I planned on rewatching it, I just couldn't, because I was bored. Number 5, I'm going with Army of Darkness. Now, to be clear, Evil Dead, The Evil Dead, all the way down here, Army of Darkness, very much higher than the Evil Dead. Evil Dead, I probably gave a 2-star. Army of Darkness, I'd go 3-star, right? Where it's not a perfect movie. It kind of is in the middle of the Evil Dead and the Evil Dead 2, where Evil Dead 2 is that perfect mix of campy, goofy stuff with the gory, messed up Sam Raimi stuff. Army of Darkness doesn't feel like Evil Dead. Right, where Evil Dead, the true nature of it is a isolated place where these demons start to attack you. That's what this franchise is about. Army of Darkness is not about that. It's about Ash leading an army to fight the dead. That's what this movie's about. And I will say, while it's a fun watch, while I have fun watching it, the individual sequences, especially, obviously, Bruce Campbell is great at what he does, so he's able to control the screen presence every sequence he's in. And the sequences, they're all there, they're all fun. But like I said, the true focus of this franchise is isolated thrillers. This one's not that. And the story, don't really care about the story. Like the overall plot of the film, I don't really care. So, while there are fun sequences in there, while it still has the goofy, campy stuff and the gory, gross stuff that Sam Raimi can do, this is the film that might be pushing the goofy stuff a little too far. My number 4, Evil Dead 2013. The first time in this franchise that Sam Raimi did not direct the film. And I gotta say, for the most part, for a big chunk of this film, it is the best Evil Dead movie. It does not stick the landing, however. I think the reason for being at this place, being isolated on this place, is very effective while being incredibly personal. That it is, they're at this place and they cannot leave because this is trying to get their friend away from drugs. And that is a very personal theme, that is a very emotional theme, and it's a theme that is effective and is super simple. They cannot leave because they have this goal while all the weird stuff happens. Now, obviously, you get the stupid stuff, the guy reading off the Book of the Dead for no reason, but still, very good theme there. And Fede Alvarez did Alien Romulus, did this movie. What he does best is takes these popular horror franchises and gives them his own flair. This one is the grossest, most grimy setting of all of the Evil Dead films, where the cabin from this franchise feels very grimy and dirty, and all the horror sequences just have an extra pop, an extra flair to them because Fede Alvarez brings his style. I liked all the cast. I think that the Deadites in this movie are great, and the horror sequences are very effective, like I mentioned. However, the movie does not stick the landing in the slightest, in my opinion, where it turns into complete fan fiction. And this is ironic considering what my top 2 is going to be, like the most distinct Evil Dead films. This film did not stick the landing because it feels like it turned into fan fiction, where you're getting blood rain down from the sky and you're doing something completely different that the franchise has not seen before. And unlike Evil Dead Rise and Evil Dead Burn, this one just doesn't feel effective or earned because it's almost a complete remake of the originals, but then you do that stuff in the ending where it's just weird. It just honestly makes me uninvested from the film because of some of the ideas Fede Alvarez tried to give this movie, and it's just not effective, right? Where, like, the isolated thriller cabin stuff is great, and then you do that in the third act. It definitely loses me. So this had potential to be number 1. Instead, it's number 4, and significantly lower than what is my top 3. Before I give you my top 3, however, if you would subscribe, hit the like button, hit the bell, and comment down below yet again what is your opinion of the Evil Dead movies, most important part of any of these videos. I would love to know your favorite and least favorite film in this franchise. And stay tuned, many more videos are coming this way, specifically the 3 best, 3 worst... What was that? 3 best, 3 worst, most surprising, most disappointing movies of the year. Just so we know, Evil Dead Burn is one of the top 3. I'm not going to include it in that video because that was for the first half of the year and I just didn't make the video yet because life has been getting busy. However, back to the Evil Dead ranking with my number 3, Evil Dead 2. Again, that leaves the 2 latest films from this franchise in my top 2. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being different because those are my generation's Evil Dead movies. This was my mom's generation Evil Dead movies. Now, my mom, the Christian, I'm a Christian too, but she's the one who got me into Christianity. Very demons can come out of the movies type of person. This movie is one of her favorite movies of all time, which is insane. If you know my mother, that is insane. However, this is an exact remake of The Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead, except it is so much more fun. The Evil Dead, like I said at the beginning of the video, is boring. Evil Dead 2 is so fun. That's because you let Bruce Campbell be Bruce Campbell. He is goofy, he's funny, he just does all these ridiculous hijinks, and it's a blast. Several sequences in the movie where he's fighting his own hand. That cannot be done in a film unless you have Sam Raimi in his style and Bruce Campbell in this movie. That is the only 2 ways crazy sequences like that work, and they work in this movie. But it doesn't get rid of the gross, gnarly, disgusting stuff, because you have plenty of that. You have plenty of the blood, the gore, all of that stuff that you love. One thing that, like, as soon as the movie ended, my initial reaction when I first saw this film was the stop motion stuff is very good, right? Like, again, another movie from a technical standpoint really impresses me how they were able to make this movie. Again, film lover, very impressive how they made the movie. So it has all the goofy stuff, all the horror stuff. Great. The way they made the film is very interesting and fresh. I will say the story, again, like the story, it doesn't quite find that right balance between goofiness and horror stuff, like, say, an Evil Dead Rise or an Evil Dead Burn did. But, man, after The Evil Dead, after Army of Darkness, two movies that I'm like, am I really going to like this franchise? Evil Dead 2 is by far the best film that Sam Raimi has directed in this franchise, and might be my favorite Sam Raimi film in general. My runner-up, Evil Dead Burn. Now, my initial reaction out of the theater is that this was my favorite film in this franchise. That was what I thought as soon as I walked out of the theater. But then I thought about it a little more, and about 5 days later, since I saw the movie, I'm still not as high on the film as I was with Evil Dead Rise, which, if you've done the math, that's going to be my number one. Evil Dead Burn's still great. Don't get me wrong. It's still a fantastic movie. The director, who I'm not going to say his name because I know for a fact I would not be able to pronounce it, brings such a unique style to this film. And one thing I love about this franchise is how each film can have its own a genuinely unique style. He brings it here. As, again, it's like a claustrophobic, one-place, isolated thriller, but he brings its own little gross style to it. And this film is by far the most mean-spirited and gross inside of this entire franchise. It's gnarly, it's bloody, the kill sequences are just gross, disgusting stuff happens, makes you squirm, makes you gag, makes you look away. All really effective. I thought the story was very compelling. The themes were good. Don't get me wrong. I do, however, feel like they could have been utilized just a little bit better in the film. But still, some good themes. The cast is all really good. And the Deadites are awesome. And at the end of the day, I'm a fan of this franchise. I love the Deadite isolated thriller attacking people stuff. This movie gave me my fix of that. Had the gross stuff, had the kills, had all the carnage I wanted from an Evil Dead movie. So I walked in, had a blast. I'm not as high on it as I was with Evil Dead Rise or even Evil Dead 2. Like, maybe another rewatch of each of those movies that it might jump up above Evil Dead Burn. But man, I had a great time watching this film. And the two post-credit scenes make me excited for the next film in this franchise. After Scream 7, well, I didn't hate Scream 7, right? But no joke that the franchise is going downhill. This is the most consistent franchise in horror history. Evil Dead Burn, another banger. But my number one, Evil Dead Rise. Oh man, Lee Cronin's getting a ton of hate from his Mummy movie, which, if you watched my video, I loved. I really liked Lee Cronin's The Mummy. However, Evil Dead Rise is still far better than that movie. This movie rocks, right? It's, again, the isolated thriller in one place. It's a high-rise apartment building. Yet this one does not feel like the other movies. And this one has a different flair to it. Again, whether it's the direction that Lee Cronin takes this film, which I find very compelling and really effective. So, you have that part, the style. Or you just have the fact that this is a family torn apart. The family in Evil Dead Burn are incredibly unlikable. The friends in Evil Dead, the original 2013, all the other movies aren't super likable. This is a family with a mother that is trying her hardest to keep her kids okay. She becomes infected with the Deadite, and that's when carnage ensues. So it kind of has a little extra flair to it. Plus, like I said, Lee Cronin's style is great. The camera shots in this movie are insane. There are several shots that when I see online, or when I'm reminded of them, I'm thinking, Evil Dead Rise. Evil Dead Rise was awesome. And then you enter the third act, and what they do is just insane carnage candy awesomeness. Now, you might think, oh, you didn't like what they did in Evil Dead 2013, but you liked what they did here? Yeah! Because I loved what they did here. The entire movie was just awesome. The kills, the gruesome nature of this franchise, great. And it's all strung together by great direction by Lee Cronin and a fantastic Deadite performance by far the best Deadite in this entire franchise, Alyssa Sutherland. Now, I planned on rewatching this movie before I did this ranking because of, the fact that I didn't know if Burn was better or this was better. And I got excited. I still haven't had time. I still plan on rewatching it just because of how much I love this movie and how much fun it is. But this is by far the best Evil Dead movie. Has the most personal stakes and some insane stuff and some insane shots. Evil Dead Rise rocks. Well, that was my ranking of all 6 Evil Dead films. Before I head out, I just want to remind you of the upcoming videos, the 3 best, 3 worst, most surprising, most disappointing movies of the year so far. Oh, real quick, I forgot. Evil Dead Rise is home to the best title card in horror film history. Right? Okay. I just had to mention that. But again, thank you guys for clicking on this ranking. Share yours down below in the comment section. And with that said, subscribe.